Many faces. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome.
Nice to see you all.
Hi, everybody. Ooh, this is so awesome. Feel free to put your videos on. We would like to ask you to please mute yourself when you first enter the room. Welcome, everybody.
Let's not label some circumstances as good or bad.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, you.
Hello.
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 Welcome, welcome. Very sorry for the slight delay. It's not very German. We had minor technical issues.
You're fine. You're
But
fine.
we're very
Relax.
happy to
You're good.
have you all here. Let's give a second for all the people to still trickle in. So we were actually supposed to have another additional technical support tonight, which is unfortunately not present. So please forgive us if we're a little bit still trickling around with the with the technical things and still admitting people to the room. We're also going to go live on Facebook. And just as a small note to everybody, we are recording this meeting as well. So if you're fine with having your camera on as well, that we're very happy to see your faces. If you're not fine with that, please turn off your camera. And anyway, it's only recording the face of the person who's speaking at the moment. So just as a small introduction, we would like to mute you all in the beginning. If you have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And also we're going to handle all the questions afterwards as well. In the bottom, you can find also the chat function. So if you have anything you would like to ask or to add, then you can also write it in the chat. And since it's only the two of us, after all, we're going to be looking at the chat as well. Hi, guys. Hi from Heidelberg. Hi, Barbara. It's nice to see you. Nice that you're joining. You can go ahead and also put in the chat where you're joining us from. We're very, very curious. There's lots of familiar faces already. I'm very excited for that. And are we already live, Kathrin, on Facebook as well?
No.
Okay, no problem.
Unfortunately, not yet.
No
really
problem.
Sorry about that.
Hi from San Francisco. Awesome. Hi, guys. From New York, I can see. From Paderborn. Yay, Germany. Very cool. It's very cool to have such an international audience.
Nice and international.
Yes, from Belgium. Amazing, amazing. I see Andreas, you're also joining. So cool to have you. Cynthia. Very, very cool. Very exciting. Okay, just give us one more second where we're going to go live on Facebook, and then we're officially going to start with the introductions and give you a little bit of an overview of what you're in for tonight. How's it looking over there, Kathrin?
Not so good yet.
Okay.
But let's give it a little moment. Maybe some other people want to join in the meantime.
Of course. Yes. No problem. Okay, everybody. So I hope you're all excited for tonight. I'm super excited. I cannot wait to discover some of those really cool critters that you can find in the Lembeh Strait and to hear more about them, and also to hear your experience a little bit, to hear which kind of critters you already spotted maybe on your previous visits to the Lembeh Strait, or if you haven't been yet, to see or hear also maybe some of the critters that are on your bucket list, on your wanting to shoot list. That's always cool to see as well, because as you might already know, the guides in the Lembeh Strait, they're very, very good at finding those critters for you as well. Massive bucket list, yes. I know, it never gets smaller. Hi, Cynthia from South Dakota, very cool as well that you're joining us. So yeah. Kathrin, you're just going to give me a go when we're live on Facebook, yeah? No? Still not?
Yeah.
Can I help you?
I just checked, it's not there yet.
All right. Okay, if it's not working, maybe we can also just post it afterwards. Anyway, so maybe you can already let me know in the chat also which of the critters are already on your bucket list. Or you can also unmute yourself, actually. Like if you're feeling free to speak, you can also let us know. Silence. Okay, everybody's shy at the beginning. Don't worry. I hope this is, yes, blue ring octopus. I love it. Okay, good chances of seeing that one in the Lembeh Strait. Definitely. Rhinopia also beautiful. The hairy goby and the octopus. The hairy octopus, you mean, or any octopus? Smita. Actually, we're going to discover tonight some of the octopuses that you can find in the Lembeh Strait.
So I've seen octopus, obviously the coconut and the wonderpuss, but I don't think I've ever seen a hairy. So a hairy is on the bucket list.
They're really hard to find, and they're so well camouflaged, you know, but they're amazing as well. So if you ever have the chance to see it, this is a great photo opportunity as well. So yeah, I'm sure your guides will do their best to find them for you when you go there for the next day, for sure. And Smita, also thank you for submitting your images. To everybody, thank you for sending in your pictures for the review as well. We're going to come to the picture review after we did the presentation and we talked a little bit about all the Lembeh Strait. So Kathrin, shall I just go ahead and...
Excellent. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. And I just want to say hello to everybody as well. Very nice to have you all here. See some familiar faces and some new ones. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you, everybody. So yes, maybe just a little bit of a short introduction about ourselves and why we're doing this. So we're very, very happy and pleased to see you here and that so many people are joining us from all over the world. Kathrin, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Okay, thank you very much. For those of you who don't know me yet, I basically had the idea very soon that I want to live abroad. So after some different destinations around the world, I found my husband in the Mediterranean, and then we had a love for the macro critters, went eventually to Lembeh, the place to be. And by now it's already been more than 8 years and 5 of those in Lembeh. So we're in the right place and we're absolutely happy here and happy to be managing Lembeh Resort. So I will tell you a little bit more about that later. We might have Sarah later on. Just a quick introduction who she is when she shows up. Sarah is our head of marketing and then possibly our technical support later on. Yeah, so I pass the word to Romina.
Yeah, thank you, Kathrin. So yes, I'm also hoping that Sarah can still join us later. And yes, so I've seen already lots of familiar faces in the audience, but many of you might not know me yet. So a quick word of introduction to myself as well. My name is Romina. I'm an underwater photographer and an underwater photography coach and the founder of OceanSnaps. And I've created an online course where I help divers create amazing pictures underwater. And right now I'm both based in Cologne, Germany, and I'm also originally from Germany, but for the last couple of years I've been living in Indonesia. I've been working as an underwater photographer there and helped people also create amazing pictures underwater. And I've been managing the diving resort at Siladen Resort as well, the diving center. Those of you who might have been to the Lembeh Strait already might know it as well. It's basically on the other side of the tip of North Sulawesi, and also a very beautiful place to dive. And yeah, now I've created this course and I also offer private coachings. And I believe in the power of images because I think it's just such a beautiful way for us to share our passion for the ocean with anybody else, our family, our friends, and hopefully inspire them as well to fall in love with the oceans, just like we did. And the more people are in love with the oceans, the better we can protect them. So I'm very excited to be here tonight and to share some of my pictures with you and some tips for taking better pictures of all the crazy critters that you can find in the Lembeh Strait as well. Kathrin, shall we do the agenda?
Okay, I hope you can see my screen now.
Yeah, it's working.
Good, fantastic. So after the introductions now, I will introduce you a little bit to the Lembeh Strait to those who haven't been here yet and the critters. Then Romina will give you some photo tips. I will show you our photo services here at Lembeh Resort, tell you a little bit more about Lembeh Resort, what makes it a really nice place to be here. And then Romina will review your photos that you've sent her. And then we have some time for question and answers. So during all this, when you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and then we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, so here we have a map of North Sulawesi for those to catch up who have not been here yet, because Sulawesi and Lembeh is not a big well-known place amongst non-critter lovers. So yeah, this is Indonesia. The island in the middle of the Four Fingers is Sulawesi, and we're well connected with flights to the rest of the world via Singapore, Jakarta, Bali, and so on. And here is a magnification of North Sulawesi. That's the area we fell in love with Bunaken Islands in the west, which you already see when you're arriving with the plane. You see all these nice little islands surrounded by blue, and then you have all the volcanoes in the highlands in the middle, and all these different shades of green. And in the east, you have an island, that's Lembeh Island, and Lembeh Strait is basically that body of water between the mainland and the island. And we have a new road, so in a good hour, you're already here. Yes, that's where we are. That's why we love it. So the Lembeh Strait is around 25 kilometers long and plus or minus 2 kilometers wide. The top photo is a view towards the south, where you see also one of the volcanoes on the mainland, and Bitung, the town with its harbor, is in the south. But we usually dive from the middle to the north, so that's what you see on the bottom photo. So this is really, really green. There's just a few little villages nestled in between. Yeah, and plenty of dive sites. Actually, if you would like to take this kind of photo, just let one of our team know, and they will be happy to take you there. I've just taken this a couple of months ago when we explored a bit more on the Lembeh Island. Yes, that's our dive site map. So you see inside the strait, there's plenty of dive sites. Actually, there is more than 70. They're not all on this map. And we're also diving outside Lembeh here, if you like. And we can go on the north up to Bangka. So there is plenty of possibilities. Yeah, so Lembeh is famous for the muck diving. So that's mainly sand, slightly sloping. On the mainland, we have those volcanoes. That's why we have mainly black sand. Whereas on the Lembeh Island side, we have mainly brighter sand. Sand here comes in bigger grains, in smaller grains. And we also have beautiful dive sites with corals. So also coral lovers and snorkelers, they have plenty of opportunities to spot the fish and a lot of diversity. Good. Yeah, we're in the middle of the coral triangle as well. So we have a really, really huge variety, one of the largest marine biodiversities on this planet. This is what classic muck diving looks like. Yeah, in case you're not sure yet if that's your thing, those of you who have been here before, maybe you remember your first dive, and maybe you descended on a black sand side. And while you were going down, it was quite dark. You were wondering, what is this all about? And why did I fly half around the globe for this now? And then once you arrive at the bottom, maybe there was a seahorse right underneath you. It's like, oh, wow, that's what it's about. And then the dive guide is already banging, calling you over because he found, let's say, an octopus. And while you're swimming over to the dive guide, there's a nudibranch in the way. So that's what it's all about here. It's like a treasure hunt. So you're swimming over the sand, scanning for those treasures, and you never know exactly what kind of critters you will find. And there is so many of them. Yes, sorry. Actually, yeah, the coconut octopus here, that's one of my favorites. They are amazing. They usually have some shells or coconut or something which they use at their house, and they're very interactive. So if there is another coconut octopus, then maybe this one goes out, runs over to the other one, tries to steal one of the shells. They're really amazing, and they can even run away with their shells. So I'm not joking, they really just hold the shells with some of their arms and run across the floor with their other arms. I could easily spend a whole dive with them. Very, very entertaining. And then due to the lack of corals on many dive sites, so there is less homes for them. There is a lot of critters who got really, really good in camouflage. So here are some examples. So for example, on the top left, you see a sponge-like crab who could easily be mistaken as a sponge. Then that seahorse underneath wants to blend in as a leaf or something. And that black hairy frogfish could easily be mistaken as a sea urchin when it's sitting between the sea urchins, and so on. So there's a lot of critters who are so well camouflaged, we can easily just swim over them. That's why it's so important to have a good guide, an amazing spotter who is used to this area here and can point them all out for you. But there's also more critters, and those are really, really colorful. So when we're talking photography, those are probably what you're after as well, because their colors really pop in the photos and they make really, really nice subject. And there is so much variety, so many of those you can find. Like if you love nudibranchs, we have easily more than 200 different nudibranchs here. So you can make quite a portfolio alone from nudibranchs. Then we have various types of frogfish, of octopus, endless shrimps. There's just so much going on, and you will not be bored, and there will always be sitting something to surprise you. Here are some iconic ones. That's the hairy frogfish, for example. You see again, it's sitting on the black sand, which makes a really nice background for the frogfish to stand out. And the nice thing is in the Lembeh Strait that the conditions are very easy. We don't have strong current. We dive in no or in very mild current. So you can actually spend time with your critters. So you can watch them, see their behavior, look at the details, take a photo, take another photo, and everybody gets their turn to spend some time with those critters. Here's a blue ring octopus. That's surely also on many people's bucket list. We also have the blue ring octopus with only one ring on each side, the mototi or the ocellated octopus. They're also very nice to see. And that's a flamboyant cuttlefish. They are amazing as well. And sure, you can look for a flamboyant cuttlefish and put it in your logbook. But even if you see it again and again, the encounters can be so different, because when they're still very small, they have very bright colors, and those waves of colors move over their body. And then you have the larger ones, the mamas. The mamas, they might walk over the sea floor to the hiding place of the eggs, and she might gently check on the eggs how they are doing. And if you're lucky, you might even see them mating, or with a lot of luck, even the eggs hatching. That's a very special moment. So there's a lot of Nat Geo moments happening underwater here. Yeah, and then in the Lembeh Strait, because of not so many corals in many places, the critters take homes whatever they can find. So this can be bottles, this can be cans, pipes, whatever's lying around there. And that actually makes for some very, very special photo opportunities when those critters are sitting in their unique habitats. And you see those photos regularly in the photo competitions as well. And talking more about taking those photos, I shall pass the word to Romina so she can tell you a little bit more what she recommends how to take the most amazing photos.
Thank you so much, Kathrin. That was amazing already. I'm super excited. We already have a few questions here, maybe in the meantime while I'm switching on my screen as well. So Robin is asking, Robin has damaged his ear and he cannot dive anymore. So he's asking if you could talk a little bit more about the snorkeling in Lembeh and including shore snorkeling as well. Is that something you're going to cover later on in your presentation as well, or do you want to cover that question right now?
I will get to that later, thank you. But I can already say something about that. Like, as I mentioned, we have more than 70 dive sites. So Lembeh is mainly famous for the black sand diving. But of course, we have those beautiful sites that not many people are talking about. And there's dive sites actually where you have the sand on the lower end, and in the shallows, you have the corals. So definitely amazing for snorkelers. We actually had also divers who spent 2 weeks here and they just wanted to see corals. That's also possible. And these coral reefs, they nearly reach the surface. So perfect for snorkeling. And if you want to do a little bit more hardcore snorkeling, you can also come out to the black sand dives. And if there's, for example, an orange frogfish or a yellow seahorse, then they're also very easy to spot. And we also have guides trained as snorkel guides. So you could also have one of them join you and point those out for you. There's plenty of possibilities. We also have a house reef, which is also great for divers and for snorkelers. I hope that helped answer the question a bit.
Perfect,
Good.
thank you. Robin, we hope that answered your question. If not, just let us know. You can unmute yourself as well, or just drop another comment or question in the chat as well. And then Claudia and Roland, you were raising your hand as well. I don't know if that was just a mistake to try it out. It was very shortly. If you have any question, feel free to unmute yourself as well, or drop it in the chat. Perfect. Good, Robin. I'm happy we answered your question. I'm also excited. I think everybody should be excited to go to Lembeh. Okay. If not, you can still drop all your questions in the chat as well, and we will still get to them also later. So can you all see my screen already? Yes?
Yes, we can
Can
see
you
your
see my
screen.
screen? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So yes, I'm taking over now. So Kathrin already gave us a really, really cool overview and introduction about all the crazy critters you can find in the Lembeh Strait. And it's true, there's just so many. It's like a huge abundance of biodiversity and also a range of species. So some of the most iconic ones are the rhinopia, for example. You can also find the bargy-bunty seahorses, the blue ring octopus we already talked about shortly. So there's really, like, you're never going to run out of critters in the Lembeh Strait for sure. And even if you see them again, as Kathrin mentioned, it's always good to see them again. And I'm sure once you've been to Lembeh, you will always, always, always return because it never ends. So unfortunately, we cannot cover all of the species tonight because I think we would be talking for days probably if we wanted to do that. So we're going to focus on a couple, and the first ones being the frogfish. And so I wanted to ask you if you know how many species of frogfish you can find in the Lembeh Strait. Or even if you don't know, you can take a guess, and I would love to hear what you think. 7, Robin. Good guess, very close. 5, okay, yeah. 12, all right, yeah. Very good, 10. Okay, so I think you guys are already aware that there's really like so many different ones and such a big variety in species. So depending on which quote you cite, it's 8 species of frogfish that you can find. And just a few of them to mention include, for example, the painted frogfish, which might be one of the more common ones, but actually there's nothing so common about him. And he's still really, really cool. So you can see the painted one, for example, here on the picture on the right, bottom right, the orange one. The cool thing about frogfish is also that you cannot really tell them apart only by the coloration, because they are really, really good at camouflage, and so they change the colors as well. So depending on which environment they're going to be sitting on, what kind of color of sponge, for example, they're sitting on, they will change the coloration as well over a longer time sometimes, but they can still do that. You can find the giant frogfish as well in the Lembeh Strait. You can find the warty frogfish. So the warty one, you can see here on the left, the yellow one with the right red markings as well. It's also often referred to as the clownfish, clown frogfish, and the one right next to it on the left is a juvenile clown frogfish or juvenile warty frogfish also. So here you can see the coloration also changes when they mature, which is also a really interesting fact about them. And we're going to see more about that also in a second. But then you also have a little bit more special critters that might be on your bucket list. And I already saw, I think Thomas it was, who also really wants to see the hairy frogfish as well. You can find the freckled frogfish as well in the Lembeh Strait, the ocellated, the Randalls, the Sargassum frogfish. So you see there's really so many variety. And even if you find a frogfish, it's not always the same as the next one. And so it really never gets boring of seeing them. So let's talk first about maybe the more special subjects that might be on your wanting to shoot list. So the hairy frogfish is on many people's to shoot list, and I understand why. It was also on mine for a very long time, and it still is. It doesn't go off there because it's always cool to see them. So what makes the hairy frogfish a little bit more special, or what makes him different from the other species of frogfish, is exactly that what we in colloquial language call hair, which are actually very thin skin appendages that he has all over his body as well. And so again, he can come in different color variations. He's really camouflaging in with its environment. So for example, if you find him in like a green brownish coloration, it basically means that he's mimicking the algae around him, but they can also come in like bright yellow or orange, as you can see here on the left side. And another very distinguishing feature about the hairy frogfish is its lure. So, you know, frogfish, in German, they're called Anglerfisch, which basically means the fishing fish, and which is describing what he does. Because he's a lie-in-wait predator, so most of the time he's just sitting on the reef and actually luring in his prey, and we're going to see in a second how exactly he's doing that. And so that means that the frogfish have an elysium and an esca, it's called. So it's basically like a small fishing rod that he's going to dangle in front of his head. And here, I hope you can see my mouse as well, on the right side, you can very clearly see how distinguishable the elysium of the hairy frogfish is, because it's basically mimicking a thick worm-like, a thick worm. So depending on the species of frogfish, the elysium is also shaped differently, and they can come also in different color variations. They can be smaller or bigger, and maybe they're mimicking a small crustacean, for example, or worms like this one. And so obviously, when you find a species like this, it's really nice to also emphasize the characteristic that makes this species special. But maybe not every time you're going to be lucky to spot such a critter. And even though the guides at Lembeh are just incredible, and I'm sure they find one for you, but just because it's a rare critter does also not mean necessarily that it's a good photo subject. And so it's important as underwater photographers also to pay attention to that, and maybe choose a more common subject or a more common species if it is in a better position. So also consider what position your subject is in, if you're able to approach him or her freely and safely without causing any damage to the reef, for example. Okay, now in Lembeh you don't have a lot of reefs, so it's already a little bit safer, but still it's really important to have good buoyancy as well. And so the point being, don't necessarily take the rare subject just because it's rare. Even if you have a common subject, like the painted frogfish, which maybe you find a little bit more common if you've already seen a lot of them, you can make them stand out. And so in that cases, it's really good to use some creative techniques or lighting techniques, for example, to create pictures that still stand out, even though if it's a common subject, or more common. Okay, because I think all of the subjects are special underwater. Okay, and so one easy way of doing that is creating a black background. So what is really important for creating a black background is that you need to make sure that behind your subject, there's nothing. There's only the open ocean, basically, so that you have a lot of space to shoot into. And then the trick about creating a black background is that you're really blocking out all of the natural light or the ambient light, so-called. So you need to make sure that with your strobe, you're just lighting up the subject and nothing else. So not necessarily the reef around it, or maybe a little bit, but preferably not. And then choosing a very fast shutter speed and a small aperture, you can make sure that you block out all the ambient light. And basically the only light that you're going to be using is the strobe light, which is going to light up your subject. And just as a note on the side, I know that today might be full of information, and I like to put a lot of tips in all of those things, and then I come up with even more while I'm talking. So I've created a free resource for you as well, to everybody who has registered before and who's on the call. I'm going to send it out afterwards as well. And for the people joining on Facebook, you can also sign up. We're going to drop the link in the chat as well, so you can also get your resource afterwards. And it's basically a compilation of all the tips that I'm sharing tonight with you. So you have a little reminder for all of those note takers among you. And then I wanted to show you also the juvenile painted frogfish, because you can see he's really quite different from the adult version. So even though the adult version can change its colors depending on where it's sitting, as we said, the juvenile painted frogfish, it's black and it has lots of small little bright orange dots, and it has like a yellow lining along its fins. So it's really remarkable, I think, how much the juvenile can change to the adult version. And obviously it's not the only species in the animal kingdom that can do that, but I think it's one of the most drastic changes as well. Okay, and then, as we already said, the frogfish is really good at camouflage. So you might be swimming right next to one or in front of one, and you might not be able to see him because he's so well camouflaged. And one thing that helps him to do that is the so-called eye spots. So you can see all of those spots here. It's also called ocelos. The frogfish is covered in them, and it's helping him mimic its surrounding and camouflage more. And so you can also use this in your pictures, for example. I like sometimes to create pictures that it's not super obvious on the first look what is actually in the picture or what is the subject. And so I think this way, when you have the camouflaged frogfish here with this background, and you can see the spots of the sponge here where he's sitting at, it looks exactly the same like the little eye spots. I think it's really nice to use that in your images as well from time to time, and like surprise the viewer as well, and make him like look and get its attention for a little while longer as well. And then we already said that the frogfish has this really cool luring behavior. So basically he's going to be sitting on a sponge or on the sand or on some stones as well. And he's basically going to lure in his prey. So he's going to dangle the fishing rod in front of his face, and like this attract all his prey. And then when the prey actually comes, he's going to strike super fast. I think it's one of the fastest striking speeds in the underwater animals as well. So what he's going to do is he actually is going to suck in his prey. So he has a super fast moving gulping movement basically. And this is how he's feeding. So if you ever get to witness this kind of behavior, it makes for a really good photo opportunity as well. Because like this, you can also tell a story about your subject and its environment and how it's behaving. And then another good thing is to experiment with light. So already in these pictures, you can see a little bit that the light is not super flat. You can create more structure in your images as well, depending on the subject you're shooting as well. But if it's like the frogfish and it has like lots of bumps, or it has or some nudibranchs as well, all those kind of animals that have more structure, you can emphasize that with the way you create your pictures, so the way you choose your lighting. And I wanted to show you here. So I don't know if all of you know what this is. This is a snoot, and it's basically an extra tool that you can put on top of your strobe. So if you have your strobe like this, you can basically add it to your strobe. And what it does, it's concentrating, it's focusing the light beam. And so like this, you can have very, very focused images, not focus as in the autofocus, but as in the light concentration. And you can create very moody or very different kind of feels also and looks to your pictures as well. And then I want to encourage you to just also play around with the position of your light, because the way you position it makes a big difference on the outcome of your picture as well. So on the way the texture is emphasized, for example, and so on. So I want to encourage you to experiment with it and play around a little bit. and just see, for example, here it's the same frogfish, and it's a very different picture just because of the way the lighting, the direction the light is coming from. And so like this, you can really play around and get creative. And this is also something we cover in depth in my online course if you want to go deeper into that. But just to sum up also the tips for this section. So a rare subject alone does not necessarily make a good photo subject. It's really important that you also look for the position of your subject. And if the subject is in a good position, obviously we never manipulate it or we never move the subject into a different position just because it doesn't suit us. So be respectful of the marine life, but consider the position and if it's actually approachable. And it's also okay to say no and move on, especially in Lembeh, you have so many critters. Like you hear your guide banging his tank all the time for something new. So if something is not in a great photo position, just move on and maybe on the next dive, you know? And then get creative with lighting and creative techniques to create even more interesting pictures also of more common subjects. Okay, and again, you're gonna get the tips in the free resource as well as a reminder. Okay, let's move on to the next. Do we already have any questions? I need to take a sip of water. No questions, Kathrin, in the chat? No?
Not at the moment.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. So let's move on. The second species we wanted to highlight for tonight is the octopus. So we already heard about the coconut octopus. And now I wanted to ask you again, which octopus species can you find in the Lembeh Strait, or which ones have you seen before? Let us know in the chat.
Actually, we have a question from Robin asking when is the best time to see the critters. So maybe we can just answer that quickly in between.
Sure.
So actually, the Lembeh Strait is great the whole year round. So whenever you're coming, I can promise you, you will see amazing critters here. Sometimes the water temperature is changing slightly and the current is changing slightly. So that brings some differences. So sometimes there might be like more small frogfish. Then there is the time when all the octopus are mating, or the rhinopias are coming to shallower water. So there's always something special. There's sometimes of the year something might be more frequent, but there is so much going on. So yeah, any time of the year.
Yeah, I think this is also one of the beautiful things about the Lembeh Strait, that no matter when you go, you're always gonna find stuff. It's just so cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the octopus. I see nothing in the chat, but I'm sure you guys can think of a couple, and we already also mentioned a couple. So you can find the reef octopus in Lembeh Strait. You can also find the coconut octopus. You have the starry night octopus, which is more night active. So those ones you can find during your night dives as well. You have the super venomous blue ring octopus, which is very remarkable because of his blue spots as well. And then you also have the wonderpus octopus and the mimic octopus. And those are two octopuses. Repeats, always the same question. We want to take a closer look at today. When I was preparing the slide, it actually made me think about, you know, like a final come down in the fight, like the wonderpus versus the mimic octopus. I don't know, I forgot to mention that I'm Mexican at heart, so maybe it's like this luchadores background that always puts me in this mood. But anyway, the wonderpus and the mimic octopus, they're both masters at camouflage. And they're actually very often confused with each other. And it's not so easy to tell them apart. But on the other hand, you have a couple of features that can help you tell them apart and actually decide if it's a wonderpus or a mimic octopus. So the wonderpus, you can see on the left side here. His coloration is a little bit more brownish, reddish usually. And then on the other hand, the mimic octopus has also brownish, but darker brown, and it goes more towards a blackish color as well. The wonderpus is usually a bit smaller than the mimic octopus, and the color of its stripes is usually a bit clearer. You also have the ice talks. So the one from the Wonderpuss is longer. However, I find this one really hard to notice when you're on the dive or when you see the animal, because they don't always have them completely out. So I find it really hard to tell if it's now a longer one or a shorter one. But another very, very big feature to distinguish them is that the mimic octopus here on the margin of its tentacles, it has this white line, and the Wonderpuss does not have that. So this is I think like a very easy way to tell them apart. Yeah, exactly. So let's have a closer look. The Wonderpuss, the picture on the left here is from Kathrin. Very beautiful picture as well. So the Wonderpuss, as we just said, is a little bit more brownish, and he usually lives very solitary. And often in Lembeh, you can find them just hiding in their little burrow, in the sand at very shallow depth as well. And what is really cool about them is that they all have a unique pattern on their head. So here on the back, those patterns is a little bit like a fingerprint by which you can actually tell them apart. But I think you need to be a super pro marine biologist to actually do that. And maybe a couple of Wonderpusses to actually do that. But I think it's really cool. It's basically like the one in the manta rays where you can tell them apart by the belly. So it's really a unique pattern as well. And yeah, so it's really cool if you get to witness that mimicking behavior. So again, also the Wonderpuss is really good at mimicking other marine animals. And here, this is like a very typical movement with its tentacles, where I think he's mimicking the sea snake, like other predators for his own defense as well. So this is a really perfect moment to actually witness. And most of the time, you're going to find them like crawling on the sand or along the sand at least. So it's good also to take your time and be patient, actually always in underwater photography. Because if you take it slow and you give yourself some time and you relax, most of the time the animal will also relax. And I know this is really hard, especially in Lembeh, when you just have critter after critter and you just want to get shooting and shooting and shooting. But it's often really, really worth it. So for example, in this one, we found the little Wonderpuss, and he was just playing along the sand with a little shell. And after a time, he got really comfortable. And we were basically just hovering around him and just watching him. So it's also often good to just give the animal some time and not like rush in with your camera and start shooting straight away. And after a little while, he actually took off and he took his little shell. You can't see it very well. It's here that he's holding his shell. And he started to like fly away. And so those are moments that are really worth capturing as well, especially if you have behavior that is not so common as well. So if you have any like rarer behavior that you get to witness, and so again, it helps to really know your critters as well and know the kind of behavior that they might be displaying to then capture the moments as well. Okay, let's come to the mimic octopus. So the mimic has often been featured in like many documentaries and so on. So this one might be a little bit more known than the Wonderpuss. And he's very active during the daytime as well, but he can be very difficult to spot during the daytime because he's also often sitting on the sand. And sometimes you also have only his, or most of the times he only has his little head sticking out. He's also a smaller species of octopus, just like the Wonderpuss, and he can grow to a maximum length of like 60 centimeters, more or less. And as we said, the very distinguishing feature is here the white margin along his tentacles as well. And so depending on which source again you cite, the mimic octopus is said to be able to mimic up to 15 different marine species. So on the left here, very beautiful picture, you can also already see that he's mimicking the flounder. And he actually has a wide variety of predators and prey that he can mimic. He can mimic a lionfish, which might be more often to be observed, but he can even also mimic anemones or stingrays, mantis shrimp, and even jellyfish. So it's really worth, if you find one, to just spend some time with him and also just watch him and watch how much he can change, because he can change his texture. I mean, like many octopuses, his texture, his coloration, and so on, but also the way he behaves, basically, and the way he moves his arms. And so whenever you have a chance of witnessing that, that is just a very beautiful moment as well. And then I wanted to show you or bring you a little story as well. So again, when we found this mimic octopus, I almost overlooked him because he was just in his little burrow sitting in the sand, and I was like diving above him and I almost didn't see him, and just last second I saw him. So I backed up and I was just curious to see if he would actually come out and get comfortable, because you know, if the octopus is just sitting inside his hole, this is not a very good picture, and it's also not so fun. And you know, octopuses are super intelligent, and so I was very curious as what would happen. And after taking a few minutes and just sitting back and waiting, basically, it was really cool because he got really comfortable. And so he actually came out of his hole, and I just saw that he started to come towards me actually. So it was very slowly, but you could see that he was really intrigued and he was really curious as well. So he started moving towards me. And I think in this picture, you can also see that he's more relaxed. So, you know, it's no good also just rushing in for pictures or like stressing the animal out. It's really important to actually let them relax and respect them, because in the end, I think as underwater photographers, we're really advocates for the ocean. And so we should not use any unethical behavior, I'm going to say, and just respect the wildlife as well. And so after a few moments, basically, he came even further to me. And at some point, he actually reached out with his tentacle and touched my camera housing. And this is when I took the picture. And I thought it was just so cool that the octopus was so curious. And it was not only me being curious about him. So, you know, if you relax and take your time and be patient as well, I think this is when you have the chance of witnessing some incredible, like those unique moments, you know, those stories that you're never going to forget. And I think the moments why maybe most of us are diving, because of the special connection to the animals as well. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to tell you as well. So the photo tips for this section, as a reminder, is to always be ready, because you never know when you're going to find a special critter, or any critter like the mimic octopus is moving very fast, and you can be in the middle of the action. So it helps to have your camera settings ready and mentally also be ready to take those pictures. You can look for special behavior or interesting moments, like the one when they're mimicking a special behavior, for example. But it always helps also to be patient and let the animal get comfortable, and always respect the marine life as well. Again, you're going to get the free resource after. And now, for the ones on Facebook, I wanted to drop you the link as well. And I'm also going to drop it afterwards under the video as well. So you can also get it, even though if you haven't signed up yet for it. Yes, and if you wanted to learn more, I've created an online course where we cover in-depth lighting, composition, macro photography, wide-angle photography, and so on, basically really everything you need to know in order to create amazing pictures underwater. And I also offer one-on-one coachings. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to reach out. I invite you to check it out. And now I'm handing over to Kathrin before we do the picture review of your pictures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Romina. That was very inspiring.
Thank you.
I bet there are quite many people now who would like to come and take those photos that you were describing and witness those special moments. And I agree, there is really endless opportunities.
Yes, definitely. Lembeh is the best place for photographers, really.
Okay, so I would like to tell you a little bit more about the resort now. Just a moment. Here we go. Good. So for this amazing diving that Romina was telling you about, of course, you need a base, and I would say we have the perfect one for you. This is Lembeh Resort, and you see how it's nicely nestled in our own little bay, surrounded by tropical rainforest. You see in front of the boats, there's also a nice house reef. So yes. In the center, where you arrive, we have a pool with the pool deck, the pool bar, and on the left side in the photo, that's where the dive center is, right at the jetty. So very short ways between the dives. And on the right-hand side, you see the view from the sun deck towards the mainland, towards the volcanoes over the strait. So that's where you can relax also between the dives. And right next to the dive center, we also have a camera room where you can change your batteries, change your lenses and so on. There's international plug points, good lighting, everything you need there. To take those photos, of course, you need an amazing spotter. So our dive guides, they are all trained in marine biology, and we have an in-house marine biologist full-time who challenges them regularly with critter tests. And it's very important, of course, to know the habitats and their behavior to make your dives most memorable. They're also trained in underwater photography, so they know what camera setup you're using, what kind of critters they will show you. So for example, if you are on a 100mm lens, they will not show you a giant frogfish. I mean, they will show you, but they know that you probably can just take the eye of it with that lens. So they're very experienced with that. And our dive guides together have more than 50,000 dives under their belt. We regularly host underwater photography workshops. We have one photo workshop we're running every year. That's the capturing critters in Lembeh. The next one in 2022 is with Erin Quickly and Jen and Joel Penner. There's some last spots left, so if you would like to, grab them quickly. But if you are coming at any other time, we can also arrange a photo workshop for your group, or of course individual sessions. Just let us know. At Lembeh Resort, we've had a full-time in-house photo pro for more than a decade now. And actually in 2019, we also became Backscatter authorized photo center. That's the only one in Asia so far. That's what it looks like. It's a separate building designated for photographers. So we have a lot of accessories there. The largest range here in the area, anything from macro lenses to strobes, video lights, arms, snoots, any kind of spare parts. Actually, our team can also do minor repairs. We even have a 3D printer. So we're really aiming to get you back in the water with your camera as quick as possible. Also, if you figure out that with your camera you can't get these shots and you would like to try, let's say, a strobe or a macro lens, or see if a snoot is something for you, you can rent those and just play with it a little bit. And then James, our photo pro, and the rest of the photo center team, they will also be happy to give you courses or tuition, how to take even better photos with your camera, how to use that snoot and so on. So they do this individualized to what you're interested in. So you can just come and have a chat with them. Yeah, so that's some creative approaches. James will be very happy to share those techniques with you. So on the right top where you see the nudibranch, that's what Romina was talking about before with the snoot, where you just have a small ray of light passing through that snoot, basically, just heading directly on the head of the nudibranch, and the rest is all blacked out. So you can be very creative with that. It takes a little bit of patience to play with that, to get the light exactly where you want it, but the results are really amazing. Then, of course, there's other options as backlighting or swirls and motion blur or fancy backgrounds, a lot of possibilities. Talking about snoots again, Backscatter released a new toy. Let me just check, I forgot the name right now. Yeah, it's the mini flash and optical snoot. That's what it's called, in case you would like to look that up. And that comes with colored filters as well. So where you can, for example, as this moray eel down there with the pink light, so you can do all this fancy stuff. So you can look that up on the Backscatter website. And yeah, it's never too early to put something on your Christmas list, right? Okay. Good, and to get to these dive sites, we have a light which is falling down, and here it is again. Good, so we have strong boats taking you to the dive sites. They're very spacious with a lot of storage space also. All boats have a toilet on board, shaded and sunny areas, and easy to climb ladders, so very comfortable. The dive sites are generally between 2 and 20 minutes away, and we usually do 3 dives a day, 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Mostly we come back after each dive, so you can relax a little bit in the resort, but sometimes we go a little bit further, so then we stay there for 2 dives and come back for lunch. Good. Yeah, we also do the dives in the north to Bunker Island and around Lembeh Island. If you would like to see even more coral and schools of fish, that's really nice places to go on a day trip. And if 3 dives are not enough for you, if you would like to dive some more, of course, there's more possibilities. For example, dusk dives. During dusk dives, you can see those beautiful mandarin fish and their mating behavior. If you haven't seen that yet, that's really something, highly recommended. Night dives are also amazing. During night dives, different critters are coming out. So on the right bottom, you see the stargazer, and on the left bottom, the bobbed worm. The bobbed worm is very special. That also inspired Star Trek. And on the left top is the starry night octopus that Romina mentioned before. Also, of course, we have bobtail squids and all sorts of different shrimps and crabs running around as well. So very entertaining. And then you might have heard of blackwater or bonfire diving. For those of you who have not yet, it's basically that we are submerging a strong light, and that's attracting those critters, different critters, mainly in larval stage. So even if you know those critters, they look completely different when they're young. Like on the right top, that's a Mototi octopus larvae, basically, which looks completely different. So you can see transparent octopus. On the left top, that's a paper nautilus. So if you're lucky, you can see something like that. Also, that photo, by the way, is from our dive center manager, Gitti. She's also a very keen photographer. You might see little flounders and shrimps and nudibranchs also in the very early stages. It's a completely new world, and it's very exciting to identify actually what those are. And the conditions here in Lembeh are very easy to do that. So that's something new to try also. Yeah, and back to the guides. The guides, of course, are the real stars. It all comes down to them to find those critters, and they're really determined to find those critters you're looking for. They love the challenge, and they're very happy to show you those critters. Yeah, just let them know basically what you have in mind, and they will find it for you. They actually, we always say they have like a superhero vision, because even what we as normal people don't see looking really close, they see it in like 10 meters away. They say, oh, they're over there, there's a big octopus. I'm like, where is that? They have amazing eyes, incredible. If you like to have an even more personalized approach, usually we dive with 4 people in a group, which is already very small. But if you would like to have a private boat or private guide, also that is possible. Just let us know. Good, and let's have a look a bit more on land. At Lembeh Resort, we have only 20 rooms. It's a very small resort, but on large crowds. We have 13 of those luxury cottages. They have beautiful terraces, and inside they're also very spacious with a lot of modern amenities. Then we have our cliffside villa. That's the only one in the whole area, with a private pool out front and 180 degrees views over the strait. Of course, also facing the sunset. You have a separate bedroom and a separate living room, 3 terraces, indoor and outdoor bathroom, and it comes with a private butler in case you would like to have your dinner or sundowner up on your terrace. Then we also have garden bungalows nestled back in the garden. They also come with all the amenities you would expect, and they are more for the budget-minded people or very popular with single travelers, also with nice views in the garden. Actually, all rooms have amazing views. They're all nestled in the garden. They also have their own terrace. The cliffside villa and the luxury cottages all have sea view in the garden. You see the garden, of course, and just sitting on the terrace and seeing what's passing by there. There's a variety of birds, like here on the top, for example, is a beautiful sunbird. On the left, that's the tarsius monkey. That's the world's smallest primate. They also live in the jungles around us, and we hear them when they go to their sleeping tree or come out from their sleeping trees, and then they look for the little grasshoppers. Yeah, colorful wasps. Then on the left bottom, that's a golden turquoise beetle. They're very special as well. If you would like to see those, our gardeners will be happy to walk around and try to find one for you. Of course, we also have mantis shrimps and mantis shrimps, praying mantis shrimps are underwater. We have both. Yeah, there's kingfishers. There's so much going on, so it's just worth resting a little bit on the terrace, having a look, going for a relaxing walk through the garden. There's also a lot of flowers. There's hibiscus. There is many different types of orchids. The other flowers, unfortunately, I don't know all their names, but it's very colorful. And different plants, apart from bamboo, coconut, and so on, we also have avocado and star fruit and jackfruit and so on, mangoes. Yeah, so very nice on land as well. Yeah, and of course you can practice all your photo skills also with those critters. For example, with that beetle here. Endless opportunities. Yeah, and then from all this diving and taking photos, you might want to get some more energy again. So we have our restaurant, which is open air with views over the garden and the Lembeh Strait. Here we offer international and Asian dishes. Our chefs come up with really nice creations, and we're using a lot of local ingredients, many of them directly even from Lembeh. Breakfast and lunch is usually served as buffet with a live cooking station, and dinner comes as a la carte with various options every day. The 3 meals are included in your package already, and we also cater for vegans, vegetarians, different diets like lactose-free, gluten-free. Just let us know. That's no problem at all. Yes, here are some examples. We also have a fully stocked bar and wine cellar. So our barkeepers will make sure you have your favorite drink to end the day or watch the sunset. And hello, Gabi. Gabi is here doing a cooking class. So if you really enjoy the dabu dabu or want to know how to make those locally spiced fish, or get addicted to panikuk, or ever always wanted to learn how to make jamu, just let us know, and our kitchen team will be more than happy to have some fun with you and show you how it's done. If you rather relax with a massage to cure your sore muscles, holding the heavy camera maybe, then of course we have a spa also. Sorry, here we go. Or you could just take a kayak and explore the area around the resort. You see there's beautiful coral reefs nearly touching the surface, and you can just start directly from the resort. And of course, that's great for snorkeling as well. Our team will also be happy to take you to the village, which is next to the resort. And to show you a little bit more about their way of life, they have some nutmeg and cloves growing there. And I would also like to mention the Lembeh Foundation. In the Lembeh Resort, we are trying to be as sustainable as possible. So of course we don't use any plastic straws and plastic bottles and no palm oil and so on. Have energy saving devices. So we're doing our part what we can. And we also founded the Lembeh Foundation, which is a non-profit organization where we would like to bring some sustainability to the surrounding villages. So for example, we built a waste bank where people can bring their plastic and exchange it into cash. We have a learning center where we teach kids about the ecosystem and to preserve their nature. And then there are some initiatives how to upcycle plastic, for example, making those flower pots out of it. And in the bottom middle, that's the ladies making face masks in the COVID times, for example. On the top, the kids are doing beach cleanup. So there's a lot of initiatives, drawing contests for the kids about the nature. So if you would like to see some of those, then we can also show you those in the village. And on that note, I would also say a big thank you to all of you who have supported us, have supported the villages in the past. Thank you so much. If you would like to venture a little bit further on the mainland, just north of the strait, there's Tankoko Nature Reserve, definitely worth a visit. And here in the jungle, you have the massive fig trees, for example. You can see the endemic macaques. Here on the bottom left, they come in small groups, sometimes with the babies also. And then on the right bottom, that's a cuscus bear. He's a marsupial, so they have pouches like kangaroos. So you might spot those, they're very slow moving. There might be hornbill birds, and actually those little tarsier monkeys, they're almost guaranteed, and because the rangers know they're sleeping trees and can take you there in the late afternoon just before they wake up and go out grasshopper hunting. Tankoko is not so far, so actually you could do 2 dives in the morning and go to the jungle in the afternoon. So that's also perfect for the last day before you're flying home. There's even more possibilities. For example, going to the highlands. The highlands are amazing, amazing nature, amazing culture and traditions. So up there is volcanoes. You can look into the crater as well. And the land is very fertile. So they grow a lot of fruit and vegetable there and a lot of flowers. So you can watch a little bit of the daily activities. There's a lot of kids who will be happy to make some friends with you, take some photos together. There's also a 3-color sulfur lake and markets, waterfalls. There's a lot to be seen, so we can make an individual itinerary for you, what you're interested in. Yeah, and as I said, the people are really amazing. That's one of the things we most fell in love with here in North Sulawesi. The people are just so warm, so welcoming, and they have such big smiles, and they're just authentically, originally nice people and nice to be around them. So also easy to get in touch with them when you're staying here, having some jokes together, having a nice little chat together. Yeah, so we look forward to having you here, sharing all this with you. On the bottom, I have some links that might help if you would like some more information. There's our website, lembehresort.com. You can send us an email to info@lembehresort.com, and you can follow us on Facebook, which is called Lembeh Resort. Or if you would like, of course, we can set up an individual video call where we can talk directly and I can answer the questions you might have. But if you have some more questions, then please feel free to put them in the chat also. Do you have any questions at the moment?
Thank you, Kathrin. Yes, we did have a couple of questions coming up. So the first one was from Karen. And let me just scroll here. So Karen is asking if there's any guess when the resort is going to be open again.
That's a good question. Thank you. yeah, we all hope we'd have an answer when exactly the borders will be open again. At the moment, actually, Lembeh Resort has been open since October last year. So we get some Indonesian guests and some expats living in Indonesia, but the borders, of course, are still closed. So we're waiting for them to open. Bali at the moment is aiming for end of July. That's not confirmed yet, but fingers crossed. And North Sulawesi here wants to follow directly after Bali. They're doing a great job here. They're vaccinating a lot of people. Tourism workers are also prioritized. We all got our first vaccine already. Some of us have their second already. We had our 2-day inspection from the government already that we're COVID safe, as they call it. So we got those certifications already. The Scoot flight from Singapore to Manado started already on the 28th of May again, at the moment just once a week. But once the borders will open, it will fly more regularly. So basically everything is set. We're just waiting now for the government to say, yes, tourist visas are available again. And as soon as we know that, we will shout it out loud, so you won't miss that.
Yes, that's very good news. And yes, so stay tuned, guys, for any news from Lembeh Resort when they will be opening again. Alison was also asking if you will be open in January 22. But I guess that
I hope so. That's the plan, yes. And I hope quite a bit before that.
Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, we are open. We're just waiting for the government, but that should be happening now in the not too distant future. Yeah, we're very optimistic about that.
That's really good news. Yes, so we can finally make travel plans again.
Exactly.
And then JPC was asking, do you shoot on TTL or do you manually adjust your strobe power? I guess that question was directed towards me, and I can just answer that one. I'm a big fan of manual mode. So also on your camera, whenever you can, or if you can, I would encourage you to shoot in manual mode, because you just have the full control over your settings like this. And so it really helps to get to know your camera and understand your settings, because then you can create exactly the kind of pictures that you would like to have. And the same goes for the strobe. So I would highly encourage you to shoot in manual as well, adjust the strobe on manual, because like this you have more control. And especially if you're shooting with 2 strobes, which might be more the case for wide angle, maybe for macro often 1 strobe is already enough, but it still gives you better control over it. So if you want to adjust the 2 different strobes at different powers, this is what you can do in manual mode. And like this, if you learn how to read your pictures as well and to analyze your shots, you will be able to better control the lighting and create more interesting effects, or in the first place, just good lighting in the first place. I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. And then let me just see here if there's anything else in the chat. Thomas is asking, how long does such a Highland tour take, Kathrin?
The Highland tour usually takes 1 day. So usually we would leave directly after breakfast, and then you would come home before dinner. Depends a little bit on the stops you would like to do, if you want to come back a little bit earlier, a little bit later, but generally 1 day.
Beautiful. Cool. Okay. Thank you, guys. I think that's it for the moment for the questions. So now we still have the image review. Let me just share my screen again, and I hope you can see my screen already now.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you again, everybody who sent in your images. Unfortunately, we can't go through all the images right now, but even if we're not going to be discussing it live, I will get back to you privately. But first of all, we have some pictures from Smita, who's also joining us here tonight. So thank you very much, Smita, for sending in your images. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to unmute yourself also, or yeah, just speak directly. So first of all, you were also asking me about a little bit more tips for backscatter, how to avoid backscatter.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is a very common problem in underwater photography. I think it's one of the biggest problems that we encounter all the time. And so, yes, also in this image, you have some backscatter. And the way to avoid backscatter is really to make sure of your strobe positioning, because when does backscatter happen? It's a problem that occurs when basically you're lighting up all the particles in the water that are between your lens and your subject. Okay, so in macro photography, it's already good because you're usually very close to your subject anyway. So it always helps to get in close in underwater photography to get better images, because like this, you're minimizing the distance between the lens and your subject. And then you need to make sure that the way you position your strobe is basically not lighting up all the water in between, okay? So that it hits your subject, but not necessarily like all the water in between, okay? And so if you like have a strobe, it's very easy to adjust the position of the strobe. So I would also recommend to take a shot, check it underwater, analyze your shot and see if there's anything lighting up or if the strobe position is good, if the lighting is good. Because if it's not good, you still have time to adjust it. So if you do that, if you make this a habit to always check your shot straight away and analyze quickly what you can adjust, then you can still adjust it and hopefully come back with an amazing picture afterwards as well. And then for this image, I also wanted to recommend you to change the composition a little bit, because I feel like this image would really benefit from a little bit stronger focus, but like composition-wise focus. So if, for example, you made the beautiful shrimp here a little bit more dominant in your picture, for example, you could already try switching up the orientation. So going from landscape to actually like portrait orientation. So basically, sorry, let me take my mouse here, like cutting out some of those parts here on the sides, okay? And then also having the light on the shrimp basically, and maybe even on this coral as well, but not necessarily here on the side where you see all of the sand in the background, basically. Yeah, so if you can even get in closer and make the shrimp a little bit more dominant, and you can also work with this as a guiding line in your.
Is that a starfish? I could never figure out what that thing was.
I don't think it's a starfish. I think it's like a piece of coral. Kathrin? Any other suggestions? No? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a coral. I don't just. It seemed like it didn't have any hard part to it, but I just wasn't sure. I thought maybe like some kind of an anemone. I don't know. It's one of those Lembeh creatures.
Kathrin, can you help us out? Do you know what this is?
I'll ask our marine bio tomorrow and get back to you.
Yeah,
okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Unfortunately, none of us is a marine biologist. Sorry. All we can do is guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's creatures that I just have never seen anywhere else, and this is one of them.
It's true, yeah. And so often you will come over. I think this is also the beauty of diving and underwater photography, because so often you will encounter something that you've never seen before in your life, and it's just incredible. All the variety. Okay, I hope that already helped, Smita, for the feedback.
Yeah, the only reason I probably did experiment turning the camera as well, but I didn't want to cut the antennas off. So, just
yeah,
a little bit of drama.
Yeah, but in that case, what you can do is like tilt it slightly and make it like a little bit more diagonal,
That's
or just
idea.
experiment also, like take different angles, and then afterwards you can still analyze. Yeah, and also for the backscatter, a little bit of Lightroom afterwards. This is, I think, still manageable. I've seen way worse. I've had way worse. So,
yeah. These are out of the can. I definitely worked on it on my own when I fixed it, but these are from the can, because I was thinking, oh my God, how do I not have to fix all this? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why, I think it's always good to try to get the best results possible straight out of the camera. I'm also lazy when it comes like to editing too much. I don't like doing it. So I prefer to just try to get the better shots straight away from the camera so that I have less work afterwards, basically. So I think this is a good mindset to adapt as well. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And we have a second one from Yasmita as well. So this beautiful.
And again, what is this creature? Does anyone know what the heck this thing is?
I think this is.
I wish I spent more time on him.
Is it?
Hmm?
I was saying, I think it's the
time
cockatoo
looking at all the
waspfish.
books. I couldn't figure it out.
Kathrin, did you say the same, cockatoo waspfish?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, what is it?
A cockatoo waspfish. Let me just put this in the chat here. So I want to say they're common in Lembeh. I don't think they're that common either, but you do get to see them a few times. They're really, really cool. I think they're closely related to the leaf scorpion fish as well. So they have this really nice, I don't know what you call it, back fin, probably, okay. And so this, did you use a snoot for that, Smita?
Yeah, last time I was in Lembeh, I was learning the snoot.
Yeah, very good. Cool. I think it's already very, very good. What would make it a little bit even better is to have this part here also lit up. So basically his snout, mouth, I'm going to call it. If this was also lit up, I think that would be a really, really perfect shot. It was very beautiful. The little bit of scatter here, I mean, that's nothing to worry about. You can easily get rid of that, but very beautiful black background. And this is a really good example of how the snoot works and what you can do with the snoot, because it creates this really highlight of your image. And I always feel it gives it a little bit of like a mysterious feel as well. Yeah. And then as a second suggestion, maybe just tilt the camera slightly for the composition so that basically you have less space here on the rear end of the fish basically, and a little bit more to the right. So he has a little bit more space to swim into basically. But other than that, I think really good shot already. Thank you again for sharing, Smita.
Thank you.
Okay, and then let's see the next one. So we have a picture from Tony as well. So here we have a moray eel, and there are two images of the moray eel. I wanted to start with this one actually. So I think with this one, the composition could be a little bit improved. So what is already good is the lighting on the moray eel. So you can see it's a very even lighting. But this is a typical example where it could also benefit from a black background or separating the subject from the background. This is always important to keep in mind when we're shooting underwater, to consider the background as well and not just the subject. And here, as we can see, the background is very, yeah, I want to say messy, very distractive as well, because it's kind of taking away from the subject. So it's nice to have the background in your picture if it's actually adding something to your picture, but not so much if it's distracting from the main subject. And here the moray eel is clearly the main subject. So changing the position slightly would be, I think would allow it to separate it more from the background, maybe shooting more from the side as well. But the light is already very good. The bad part I want to say is that all the background is also lit up. And in this case, it's a background that's not helping us. But then on the next shot, this is already, I think here the composition is way, way better. So those two combined would make a really amazing image, I would say. So this composition, but with the lighting that is more even and more equal, as we can see in this shot. So here you see that the front part of the moray eel is really a little bit darker, and all the background is actually lit up. So here changing the stroke position, pulling it more towards you so that the light is coming more from the front and actually lighting up the face of the moray eel, I think would work really, really well. And like this, you could also create the black background. So this is a good example for when it would work. So again, fast shutter speed, have blue ocean behind. Yeah, and really just light up your subject with the stroke as well. Okay, I think Tony is not here live with us, but I hope that helped anyway. And yeah, that was it from my part as well. So I want to say thank you one more time, everybody, for joining us today. If you have any more questions, please let us know in the chat as well. And even if you think of something afterwards, get in touch with us. We're happy to help you out or to get in touch with you. And yes, Kathrin, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. No further questions so far. Robin says, thank you for such an amazing presentation.
Thank you, Ramin.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any more questions in the chat?
Not for now.
Okay, good.
I
Guys,
have
if you have
one last
anything
thing.
else, feel free to also unmute yourself. I want to say a big thank you to everybody who joined tonight. But it was very fun, and I'm very excited now to jump back in the water as well and to come back to Lembeh as well to discover some more critters.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, and for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. And I have one last thing. For all of those who love those critters, we have a sofa dive again next week. We started doing sofa dives during the COVID time for all those who missed the diving, so we can get together and we can share our experiences and talk some critters. So basically, that will be next week, same time, same place. Well, not same place, really. It will be on Facebook. So you can follow us on Facebook, Critters at Lembeh, or you just put Lembeh Resort in there. And then follow our page. And then at this time, again, next week, we will do an opening post for the sofa dive. And then in the comment section underneath, everybody can post their comments, their experiences, their photos, videos, and we can just have a nice get together like diving buddies and sharing the critters we've seen. So you don't need a camera or microphone for that. It's just like entering it in the comment section. And then actually from all the photos that we have on that dive, we will create a collage, as you see here on the right, and we will post it the next day as well to honor all your photos. So it would be nice to see some of you then as well.
Kathrin, do you already know the dive site?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, sorry. We'll
I
publish
have
it in a couple of days.
thousands of pictures to sort through. And I always thought, well, once I'm sort of being pensioned, I have so much time, but that is not the case, really.
What we can do it open, make it open dive site. So any photos are great. Let's make it open dive site. Anything from the Lembeh Strait.
Any favorites, great.
Anything, welcome. That makes it easier, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do we post those through your Facebook page, Kathrin?
Yes, so on the Facebook, on our Facebook page, we will make one post, and then as you can comment on photos normally, in that comment section, everybody can just put their own photos or comment on somebody else's photo, questions, so we can just have a nice chat there together.
Okay, so we're supposed to be there in September. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Keeping our fingers crossed as well, but we're very optimistic for September. That should be no problem the way it looks at the moment.
We're also hoping to be back end of September. So.
Yes, please. Yes, please. So we're really
very
optimistic.
excited to come back. It's like, you know, I feel like we're going to start photography and even diving all over again. I'm almost nervous, honestly, because it's been so long.
And Kathrin, maybe this year I get my 1000th dive with you.
Yay! I'll join you. I'll join you.
Great.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep,
it's a reason to celebrate.
Nothing been going on. We might squeeze in a week in Egypt because that's not too far. And in 2 weeks' time, we're all fully inoculated. So
good.
We'll see.
Good,
but
that sounds good.
Change any of my numbers. I have sort of a strict plan on how I'm going to do it.
Okay.
That's a plan. That's a plan.
So we'll see you next Thursday.
Yes, excellent. Looking forward to it.
So, okay.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
All your
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining.
And if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out. Gerne. See you.